But the governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down while it's still only 6% contained. And he did this little dance like, I've been talking with these, with the governor of Hawaii about what to do. We got some ideas. A speculator, we're gonna have some meetings. Like, he's
really?
Oh, show it to him, Jamie. It's so creepy.
Not only has he been opposing it, but he's been funneling the California taxpayers' money to the homeless, who are everywhere, thanks to him, to soft on crime DAs, right, who he supports and Sorrell supports, who are letting these looters in and out, and then he denies it. Meanwhile, we've seen the law that's been on the books up until recently when the California taxpayers reversed it, saying if you steal under $1,000, we're not going to come after you. It's fine. It's a misdemeanor.
Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly just delivered a no-holds-barred critique of Gavin Newsom that hit every part of his political image. From his carefully styled appearance to the way his policies are often framed, they question the contrast between presentation and reality in California's leadership. Rogan came in with sharp, forceful commentary, while Kelly took a more precise, analytical approach. And together, they challenged the polished public image he projects. It wasn't just heated talk, it came across as a pointed breakdown of how that image holds up under scrutiny.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
With a big smile on his face. Look at the little wiggle he does with his shoulders. Speculator, watch this. Talking to Josh. Look at this little wiggle. It's excited about the possibilities of speculators coming in.
Thanks to him, illegals. So this guy's priorities are not with keeping people safe at all. He doesn't care about the crime, about the illegals, and obviously not about the fires, which after the fact, again, hey, sure, so could somebody let me know how that happened?
Joe Rogan didn't waste any time easing in before going after Gavin Newsom, coming in hard with a stream of criticism about policies and public statements. In his view, Newsom wasn't just another political figure. He represented what happens when image matters more than results. Rogan framed him as someone polished on the outside but disconnected underneath, like a leader built for appearance rather than execution.
He had no dignity. That's what I was missing. There was no dignity. It just looked like a man desperate for attention, and whenever DeSantis was scoring points on him, he would interrupt over and over to try to talk over the points as just that's like a middle school debate tactic, which is pathetic and not effective.
Joe Rogan jumped straight in by joking about Gavin Newsom's well-known hairstyle, saying it might be the most hard-working part of his public image. He joked that it wasn't just slicked back, but looked like it was barely holding on to whatever credibility was left. Rogan even added that if Newsom ever had a run-in with accountability, the hair might be the only thing to come out on top. But beyond the jokes, he shifted to what really bothered him. What he saw as a pattern of hypocrisy in how things are presented versus how they actually play out.
Saying we're move forward. We're going to move forward on that. These people lost their homes. A lot of those people don't even have fire insurance because the fire insurance pulled out of California. I think 69% of fire insurance pulled out of California because they're like, this is too crazy. You guys aren't doing jack shit to manage this. You're not clearing the brush. The amount of money they could have saved by just clearing brush, by filling the reservoir, that 11 million gallon reservoir was completely empty during the time of full fire season. Why didn't you fix that?
Joe Rogan broke down Gavin Newsom's lockdown decisions in detail, arguing that the rules he promoted for the public didn't always seem to apply the same way in private life. He suggested it created the impression of strict guidelines being followed publicly, while exceptions appeared elsewhere. Rogan compared it to a traffic officer breaking every rule of the road and then turning around to lecture others about driving safely. In his view, it reflected a leader giving out restrictions to everyone else while still having access to a far more comfortable, exclusive version of the same situation.
You got Trump derangement syndrome. You decided to be a J6, anti-J6 warrior. You participated in the J6 committee, which was completely dishonest and a show trial. And Republicans decided you weren't their cup of tea. It was not Steve Bannon's fault. In any event, they're melting down on the left over what Gavin Newsom is doing, which is kind of fun. I mean, it almost makes me want to see it continue, but not really.
Joe Rogan didn't hold back when the discussion turned to the homelessness crisis. criticizing what he saw as a failure to manage basic city conditions in parts of California. He described some urban areas as visibly struggling, with closed businesses and widespread disorder, and argued that a state known for its natural beauty had become, in his words, a cautionary example of urban decline. He even joked that visitors didn't need a Halloween attraction, suggesting that walking through parts of downtown San Francisco already gave a similar impression.
It looks, forgive me, but it looks like a nuclear bomb hit the region. Just a huge swath of one of our most beautiful cities is gone. So all these politicians are done. They don't appear to know it, but Mayor Bass, your career's over. You're probably going to be recalled and kicked out of office. There's a change.com petition with over 100,000 signatures. She's going. I don't know if she knows that. Gavin Newsom, same. You're effed. Stop telling us about the embers in your hair. It's over for you, my friend. I'm sorry, but your political career ended last week. Again, he's pretending like he doesn't know it. I'm here to tell you.
Joe Rogan also went after taxes, arguing that Gavin Newsom seemed to believe higher taxes alone could fix deeper structural problems in the state. He compared it to putting a small patch on a collapsing bridge and calling it progress, suggesting the approach didn't match the scale of the issues. Rogan joked about people leaving California and the idea of leadership looking at those trends and still missing the warning signs. He also criticized Newsom's constant media presence, saying his press appearances often felt overly scripted, filled with familiar buzzwords rather than real substance. Rogan added humor around the contrast between public messaging on climate issues and the travel lifestyle of high-profile politicians, pointing out how the image sometimes clashes with the message. He wrapped it up by suggesting that Newsom spent more time shaping his public image than addressing core problems, as if presentation had become the main focus over practical results.
California state law set to take effect April 1st, 2024. A restaurant chain with more than 60 locations nationwide that produces for sale bread as a standalone menu item does not count as fast food. The confusing exemption led to controversy following a Bloomberg article published February 28th reporting that the fast casual chain Panera Bread has dodged an upcoming minimum wage increase for fast food workers in California to $20 an hour. The article connected the bread exemption to billionaire Greg Flynn, a frequent donor to California Governor Gavin Newsom's political campaigns, who owns more than 24 Panera Bread locations in the state. In a statement to Snopes, however, Newsom spokesperson Alex Stack denied any such connection played a role in the law and even suggested the exemption would not actually apply to Panera. The governor never met with Flynn about this bill, and the story is absurd, Stack said. Well, they don't have to meet. They can talk on the phone. Our legal team has reviewed, and it appears that Panera is not exempt from the law.
Then it was Megyn Kelly's turn. And while Joe Rogan brought the intensity, she came in with a colder, more clinical approach toward Gavin Newsom. Her criticism wasn't loud or comedic. It was steady, structured, and focused on what she saw as a gap between image and performance. She argued that Newsom often seemed more invested in looking competent than actually delivering results, describing it as style over substance that doesn't hold up under pressure. Kelly then went through his record point by point, highlighting repeated cycles of big promises followed by weaker outcomes in areas like education, housing, and wildfire management, framing it as a pattern of announcement, publicity, and underperformance. She also criticized what she called moral grandstanding, saying he often delivered the right messaging publicly while acting differently in practice, especially when it came to demanding sacrifice from others while maintaining personal comfort.
I just did like a personal plea to people and got a lot of great feedback on it, so thank you for watching that. But then I took it to Twitter, and on X, I addressed Gavin Newsom personally. He follows me, so I tagged him. And I'm going to be honest, I begged him to please stop this for all the reasons stated on our YouTube feed.
She also criticized what she described as Gavin Newsom's heavy-handed approach during the pandemic, suggesting he sometimes governed in a way that leaned more towards strict control than balance. In her view, he treated the crisis like a public stage, presenting himself as a strong guiding presence, while later being seen in more relaxed settings that didn't always match the rules placed on others. To her, that gap wasn't accidental. It reflected a deeper pattern. She then pointed to issues like crime trends, struggling schools, and small businesses shutting down, laying them out as part of what she saw as a broader picture of decline despite confident public messaging. Kelly also challenged his national political ambitions, suggesting he appeared to be positioning himself for higher office while leaving unresolved problems behind in California. She criticized how he responded to opposition, arguing that disagreement was often reframed as hostility and accountability was deflected through messaging and slogans. In her overall view, Newsom relied heavily on presentation and rhetoric, while the underlying problems continued to build beneath the surface.
The way he praised Biden, I would never run against him. A man of character. Like, I'm old school. It's God. That's how like a really good actor would play a complete crazy person. It's like he's playing someone in a movie that's a crazy person.
Joe Rogan came back with another round of criticism aimed at Gavin Newsom, focusing on what he saw as a tendency to downplay or overlook serious problems on the ground. Rogan described a contrast between struggling city conditions and a consistently upbeat public tone, suggesting it felt more like performance than acknowledgement. He called it a kind of political act where reality is minimized in favor of controlled messaging. Rogan also used humor to make his point, comparing it to someone staying calm and polished while obvious issues are happening around them, yet continuing to speak in rehearsed talking points. He added that in his view, this kind of approach makes leadership feel more like presentation than problem solving, where image management takes priority over directly addressing what people are experiencing.
This week, a transition male athlete, meaning a male pretending to be a female, at a major event won everything and is now qualified to compete in the state finals next weekend. As a male, he was a less than average competitor, all true. As a female, this transition person is practically unbeatable. This is not fair and totally demeaning to women and girls.
Then Rogan turned to schools, sharply criticizing Gavin Newsom's education record. He argued that while the state focused on safety messaging, many students ended up falling behind academically and socially. In his view, extended closures without strong learning structure didn't feel like protection, they felt like harm framed in good intentions. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly came in for her final point, focusing on what she saw as Newsom using identity politics to deflect criticism. She argued that when results were questioned, he often shifted the conversation toward moral framing instead of directly addressing performance. Kelly also said he tended to avoid tough scrutiny by staying within controlled media environments where questions were softer and the setting more favorable. She ended by suggesting that his national ambitions could expose him more broadly, since outside his usual environment, he would face tougher questioning and less forgiving scrutiny.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing. And then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great. Mm-hmm. And California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. And like, you're out of your mind, dude. You've ruined this state. Like, personally ruined it.
Manhattan is 14,000 acres. In LA, at least 17,000 acres have been burned to the ground, have been eliminated. I heard somebody saying it looks like Mars. You know, like it looks like the surface of Mars now, just burned embers.
Together, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly painted a harsh picture of Gavin Newsom, describing him as someone who governs more like a carefully managed brand than a hands-on leader. They suggested that his public image feels polished and rehearsed, but often disconnected from on-the-ground results, framing it less as personal criticism and more as a broader commentary on political image versus reality. Rogan also focused on what he saw as a pattern of turning difficult situations into public messaging moments, joking that Newsom often appears upbeat even in places facing serious challenges, as if the presentation matters more than the condition itself. He added humor to the point, comparing it to responding to hard questions with unrelated talking points, shifting the conversation rather than addressing it directly.
And did you see what Gavin Newsom said to him?
No.
Gavin Newsom said that you shouldn't be posting this. We're going to make it illegal. I'm going to sign a law. And he said, Professor, suck on these nuts.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. Elon retweets altered Kamala Harris campaign. Says manipulating voices in an ad like this should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. And then he says I checked with renowned world authority, Professor, suck on these nuts. And he said parody is legal in America.
Then Rogan turned to what he called the tech exodus, arguing that companies and innovators were leaving California not out of dislike for the state, but because the environment had become too difficult to operate in. He suggested that rising costs, safety concerns, and broader urban challenges were pushing people out of what was once seen as a hub of innovation, saying it felt like ambition was being weighed down by daily reality. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly returned with a more measured critique of Gavin Newsom, focusing on what she described as a gap between public messaging and real-world outcomes. She questioned the way progress was often framed in speeches and press events, suggesting that announcements sometimes came across as success stories even while underlying problems remained. In her view, leadership was presented more through communication and optics than through sustained results, creating a polished image that didn't always match conditions on the ground.